All right, a little over a quarter mark into the season, and I wanted to do an updated tier list of the Eastern Conference. The Eastern Conference, as we all probably expected, or at least I did before the start of the season, is the better conference, better than the Western Conference. For context, the Indiana Pacers, who are currently the 13th seed right now with a 12-16 record, they would be in the play-in if they were in the Western Conference. The Eastern Conference is stacked with a lot of good teams, and these teams are basically just destroying each other. But there are a few teams that are clearly rising out of the pack. There are a few teams that need to get healthy and will probably make some noise in the playoffs. There is one team who still needs to make a big trade. Like the tier ranking video that I did before the season started, there are 6 tiers. I'm basically going to keep the same tier titles. Favorites, aka contenders. In the mix, pseudo-contenders. The third tier is the good play-in teams. Tier 4, of course, are the other play-in teams. Tier 5 are teams that are hunting for a play-in spot. And then there is a lot of rehunting. Now, these are not going to be in order like the actual NBA standings. My rankings depend on a lot of factors, so you might see some teams that are maybe higher in the standings that are lower than some teams. And fans of these teams, just a note ahead of time, no, I don't hate your team, and yes, I watch your games. So starting off in the favorites tier, number 1 for me is the Milwaukee Bucks. Now I know the Bucks are second right now in the Eastern Conference, but to me they are healthy, or as healthy as can be, because Brook Lopez is still coming back from back surgery. We don't know when he'll be back at some point, but Dante DiVincenzo is coming back on Wednesday. The Big Three has been back together for a while. They are 8-2 in their last 10 games, and Giannis is still the best player in the world, and right now I have him third in my MVP rankings. So the Bucks right here, to me, they are the favorite for me to come out of the East if I had to pick right now. I know I said the Nets were the undisputed favorites before the year started, but a lot of circumstances happened. And because of those circumstances, the Brooklyn Nets right here are number 2, so they are right behind the Milwaukee Bucks. Kevin Durant has been playing lights out. It's really just unprecedented what he's doing since he tore his Achilles and came back from it. For me, the Nets role players, the reason I don't have them ahead of the Bucks is because in a potential series, I think Milwaukee could beat them. Now, Kevin Durant obviously could go scorched earth and beat the Bucks by himself in a 7-game series, but the Bucks have a tier 1 franchise player of their own. And also, I'm not sure still about the Nets role players. There's a lot of LaMarcus Aldridge. A lot of their role players skew big. James Harden one night will look like old James Harden, and then another night he will look like a really creaky version of James Harden, and I just don't know which one you're going to get. And I just think in a potential series against the Bucks right now, the Nets would lose. And for this tier ranking video, we now have a third team that has elevated themselves to favorite status in the East. It is the Chicago Bulls. Now, the Bulls now have a lot of players that are in health and safety protocol, but when fully healthy, I fully believe in this team's defense. I fully believe in the fact that Billy Donovan is one of the best coaches in the NBA right now, and he has some go-to lineups that he can use in a potential playoff series. And DeMar DeRozan is arguably a first-team All-NBA guard right now, and his game is very conducive for the playoffs because he is a mid-range master. And then you got Zach LaVine. Lonzo Ball is a perfect fourth option. And Nikola Vucevic, even though he is kind of struggling right now or playing below his standards, he is still a nice secondary playmaker. And if he does struggle, like I said, Billy Donovan can just go to his smaller lineups, which I think the Bulls have some of the best small ball lineups in the NBA this side of the Warriors. Then we move on to the next tier, which is in the mix or pseudo contenders. And right here, I have the Miami Heat. Now, this is kind of going off of their early season stuff because the Heat have dealt with a lot of injuries, guys in and out of the lineup. Bam Adebayo is now out for up to 6 weeks with his thumb injury. Jimmy Butler's kind of been in and out with a tailbone injury. But when healthy, I just don't see how the Heat won't be a pain in the ass to play in a 7-game series. They have some good offensive lineups they can play. Tyler Hero is one of the front runners for Sixth Man of the Year. They can mix and match. They have a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense still, even though they have kind of been middling the last 2 weeks in terms of defensive and offensive rating. But when fully healthy, this team is going to be a bitch to play in a 7-game series, and they have really good offensive players, not only individually, but they can also fit together. And then the second team I have in this tier is the Philadelphia 76ers. The Sixers are finally starting to get everybody back fully healthy consistently. They started off 8-2 this year before health and safety protocols just ravaged this team. And I feel like they are just now getting back into a rhythm, even though it is rough to watch at times, and Doc Rivers makes me want to pull my hair out. But they still have a Tier 1 MVP caliber candidate in Joel Embiid. Tyrese Maxey needs to get back on track a little bit, but I think that's more so Doc just doesn't know how to use him now that Embiid is back. But they have a lot of good pieces, and there's still the Ben Simmons shoe that needs to drop, which, with the December 15th deadline coming up for new contracts that can be traded, I imagine some movement will start this week. We'll see what happens, but I have the Sixers here. And then I think probably the biggest jump in these rankings is a team that's been unexpected, the Cleveland Cavaliers. And the Cleveland Cavaliers, one, their defense is just hellacious. They have the Rookie of the Year frontrunner in Evan Mobley. Jared Allen has been playing like an all-star this year. I would have him on my all-star team right now if the voting ended. Darius Garland is taking another leap. Now, it sucks that Colin Sexton is out with injury, but they haven't really needed him. And with Isaac Okoro in the starting lineup, they can kind of play a little bit normal because they don't have a smaller backcourt. But look, the Cavs have a weird, funky team. They have bigs that can do different things, which is why they are starting 3 bigs. And then they can flow into more normal lineups or play lineups with Rubio and Garland in the backcourt. But if you just look at the Cavs' recent wins, especially since Evan Mobley came back from his recent elbow injury, they have just been demolishing teams, especially on the recent road trip they were on, and then they demolished the Kings over the weekend. The Cavs have an identity. They play defense. They are huge. They have bigs that can guard not only the rim, but can also switch out and move their feet on the perimeter. The reason I have them below the Sixers is because I just need to see the Cavs do it in a playoff setting. I just wonder how their offense is going to function in a playoff setting, especially with the lineups that they play. But I know one thing is for damn sure, their defensive identity is absolutely going to translate to the playoffs. And if you just look at their future, the Cavs have a really nice big 3 with Darius Garland, Jared Allen, and Evan Mobley. Then we move on to the good play-in teams, and these 2 teams can definitely shoot up the rankings, but I have the Atlanta Hawks ahead of the Charlotte Hornets. These are my 2 teams in this tier. Starting with the Hawks first, I know they started off a little bit slow. DeAndre Hunter seems like he just can't catch a break with these injuries. Cam Reddish has been in and out of the lineup lately, but he was back. Bogdan Bogdanović is going to be a few weeks away from coming back, but that just shows the depth of this Hawks team. Trae Young has taken another leap as a star player. I plan to do a video, much like the Cavs, I plan to do a video on both the Cavs and Trae Young's just leap and play. He's really made improvements in not only his efficiency, but where he is scoring the ball, and this notion that he really draws a lot of fouls and that's where his scoring comes from. It's really just been debunked and thrown into the ocean. I just imagine the Hawks are going to shoot up the rankings real soon. They just need to get back to playing better defense. They were never a great defensive team, but they had a lot of really good defenders, and Clint Capella has taken a step back this year. But I just still believe in the Hawks' talent, and that's why I have them ahead of the Charlotte Hornets. Speaking of the Hornets, I think the Hornets are 1 or 2 more moves away from just being really, really dangerous and possibly being on the back end of the in the mix tier, not necessarily a pseudo contender, but just as a team that just has a lot of talent. They know how to score the basketball. They have playmakers everywhere. They just need some damn rim protection. They don't have a real center. PJ Washington's basically playing de facto backup center. Like I highlighted in my video that I released a few weeks ago, I just think the Hornets need to make a play for Miles Turner right now because the Pacers are in fire sale mode. And once they do, I think they'll be cooking with gas. And moving on to the next tier, which is the other play-in teams, I have the Washington Wizards right here, first in this tier. They have kind of been sliding recently. They are no longer getting away with the fact that their offense has kind of been poor, to say the least. Their defense has kind of slipped up a little bit. Bradley Beal is still having a really bad year by his standards. He's having a lot of career lows, but the Wizards still have talent. I just don't trust the Wizards offense, and I just don't trust some of their players in a playoff setting. Montrezl Harrell is more of an innings eater to me. After coming off of a hot start, I just think the Wizards are falling back down to earth, and I just think they're one of the other play-in teams. And then the next team I have in this tier is the Boston Celtics. Jayson Tatum has been playing spectacular lately, but it's the other pieces, and also now Josh Richardson is in health and safety protocol. Jaylen Brown has been dealing with a hamstring injury. So a lot of things are not going the Celtics' way right now, and it seemed like they were kind of riding the ship and figuring out the switching defensive scheme that new head coach Ime Udoka was implementing. But there's still just something about the Celtics when I watch them that they just lack pop when it comes to the offensive end. Marcus Smart is their best playmaker from the perimeter. If you're just talking about expectations and where I thought this team would be, I just really haven't seen that team yet, and hopefully they'll get healthy, they'll be able to get everybody back, but I just think the Celtics need to make a move and kind of bolster their roster because they have two really good players, one of which is shelved right now with injury, but they are definitely playing below expectations right now and have kind of been struggling recently in their last 10 games. On to the next tier, which is the teams that are play-in hunting right now, and I have 3 teams. First team is the Toronto Raptors. The Raptors' defense has been stellar the last 2 weeks in terms of defensive rating, but their offense has really just stunk. Now, OG Anunoby's injury is going to be huge. Khem Birch's injury is also huge as well, but it just seems like the Raptors are just trying to find anything that works offensively. Fred VanVleet has been awesome this year, I should say. Scotty Barnes is also a first-team all-rookie, but right now they are still playing even. After starting off a little bit well to start the season, they've kind of just been middling. Pascal Siakam is now still getting worked back. He's played a handful of games now. He's trying to get his rhythm back. But right now, the Raptors, they're just in that Knicks-Pacers category where they're just play-in hunting. And like I said, they're not that far behind the Celtics, so they could definitely make the play-in. I just struggle to find what their offensive identity is. They have a lot of players that I like, but I just don't know necessarily how it fits together offensively yet. They are still trying to figure some things out, so I have the Raptors right here. And the second team in this ranking are the Indiana Pacers. Now, I think the Pacers should still blow it up, but they have lost a lot of close games, and since that Athletic article came out, they have now won 3 in a row. They still have a lot of good players. Domantas Sabonis is good. Miles Turner is good. But right now, I would have the Pacers over the Knicks because I just trust their offensive players more than I trust the Knicks right now. I've really soured on the Knicks, and right now, the Pacers are 3-12 in clutch games, which are games that are within 5 points with under 5 minutes left in a game. So in a hypothetical play-in setting, I would definitely trust the Pacers more than the Knicks. Even though the Pacers have been poor in clutch situations, they absolutely have the talent to be in a lot of games, and I would just trust how they run things more than the Knicks right now. And the Knicks, as you probably expected, are the third team here. They have just been on a bad slide recently. Their defense, which was really good last year, has sucked. Their offense is also still very stinky, even after addressing those needs in the offseason. Evan Fournier, I just don't feel his numbers when I watch Knicks games. I just don't feel his impact. They have already taken Kemba Walker out of the rotation, just basically making him the scapegoat. I really didn't think he was that big of a problem. Yes, he is a point guard that has had knee issues and he's small. So yeah, the defensive issues were bad, but the Knicks bench has been better than the starters, which is something I didn't expect. Julius Randle, after being an All-NBA player last year, has just really fallen off a cliff. The Knicks are just in a lot of trouble right now, and I know the Knicks at this point last year were under 500, and then they went on their run, which led them to the playoffs to get bounced in the first round by the Hawks. But this team was supposed to be better this year, especially with all the offensive additions that they made. Now Mitchell Robinson is coming off the bench, Nerlens Noel is starting, and things might be getting worse now that RJ Barrett is in health and safety protocol, Obi Toppin is in health and safety protocol, and they just got their ass whooped by the Bucks yesterday. So it's not looking good in New York. And then real quickly, the last two teams, the teams that are lottery hunting, I have the Orlando Magic. I honestly think they have a lot to look forward to. I think Cole Anthony is a baller. Franz Wagner has really been good his last 10 or so games, especially now that Jalen Suggs is out and Franz has kind of had to take more of the ball handling responsibility, and he is really showing that he can do a lot. If you're the Magic, you got to be excited because I still think Jalen Suggs will be really good. He's really been up and down this year. He's not going to make an all-rookie team at this rate, especially now that he's out with a fractured thumb. And the Magic have kind of been dealing with injuries up and down, so I haven't been able to see a lot of my favorite lineup, which was their starting lineup to start the year of Anthony, Suggs, Wagner, Wendell Carter Jr., and Mo Bamba. But Wendell Carter Jr. has taken a leap. Mo Bamba, while he is still shown to be a little inconsistent from three, has taken a jump as a player. You can just tell Mo Bamba just looks like a completely different player. They still have some NBA players on the roster like Terrence Ross and Gary Harris, so they can play some decent offensive lineups whenever the young guys aren't working. I've found myself watching a lot more Magic games so far this season than I've expected, and I find their young talent really intriguing. And then last, and definitely least, are the Detroit Pistons. Cade Cunningham has really been playing well lately, especially after starting the season slow. Turns out if you miss a month due to injury, due to a sprained ankle, and miss a lot of training camp, you're going to struggle. But Cade Cunningham has been fantastic, especially in his last 7 games. And if he keeps playing like he has been playing, he's definitely going to find his way onto an all-rookie team. And really, that's just the thing that Pistons fans are looking forward to for this season. Cade Cunningham's development, Beef Stew just mixing it up with everybody. Hopefully, Saddiq Bey can start to get rolling because he has kind of not built off of his rookie year so far to start this season. But we really shouldn't be surprised that the Pistons have the record that they have right now. The main goal right now is to see who will take on Jeremy Grant's contract because he hasn't been scoring as efficiently as he was last year. But the Pistons definitely have some moves to make to get some more assets. It should be no surprise that the Pistons right now are at the bottom of the conference and at the bottom of the conference tiers. So those are my updated rankings for the Eastern Conference, my updated tier rankings. If you have a disagreement, be nice now. Let me know in the comments below. Tell me which teams you would have over who. But as always, thanks for watching the video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, and thanks for the support.